E360 TV proudly presents Messages of Inspirational Stories TV show. Live streaming now to millions of devices around the world on Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, Android TV, YouTube Live, Facebook live streaming. Our shows are available video on demand on these channels. And we broadcast daily, Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time on these channels. On Mondays, Expanding Your Business. Tuesdays, Natural Health and Wellness. On Wednesdays, we cover Mentoring Our Youth. And on Thursdays, our new show, Ideas Worth Knowing. And on Fridays, Women in Leadership. To be able to watch our television show on your favorite device, please go to e360tv.com and download the app for your favorite device. Brought to you by our producers and hosts, Jimgrant and donnaguinouard. Along with our host, Beata Severin-Reed and Emerson-Brantley. Supported by our admin team of Michaela Vidal and Gaia Guinois Balconi Weda. And welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. The Messages of Inspirational Stories is proudly brought to you by the good guys at the 6minutewebinar.com. Please go to the website, 6minutewebinar.com, and check them out, because if you're wanting to be able to provide your ideal client the one specific thing you can do for them, you need the 6-minute webinar. Because when someone comes to you, they want to know one thing. Can you help them solve their pain, their problem, whatever it might be? And the 6-minute webinar enables you to present it in 6 minutes or less. It has an introduction, a body, a close, and a call to action. And we're very excited.
It's perfect, Jim. For people who get called upon to speak, maybe at a company meeting or at a, or with shareholders, or at a networking group, they get called up, or a business club, just about anywhere, to be able to very quickly tailor a talk that you can give in 6 minutes. 6 minutes is just a number there. I mean, you can have it less than 6 minutes. It can just get it so concise that you get all of those key points in there. And it just asks you the questions that you need to be able to plug into it to make it work. It's an amazing program.
Absolutely, ladies and gentlemen. And Emerson's the host today, and he's got Mr. Mikelewis with him. And I'm going to drop backstage and turn the show over to them. Let me say hello to Mike and welcome to the show, my man. Whoops.
Great to see that you showed up today to help us out a little, Jim. Thank you so much. We're having a ball with this show.
I don't know how much help I will. I've been hitting the wrong buttons all day long. But ladies and gentlemen, Mike and Emerson have got a great guest for you, and just hang on to your seats and enjoy the show. Thank you now.
Yeah, this is one of your best-selling authors, Mike.
Yes, almost.
And, I think
he is a best-selling author, though. Yes.
Yeah.
And he's soon to be one of our Ideas Worth Knowing authors.
Yes.
And I met, it's Stan Zitofsky. And Emerson, I met him in Philadelphia at an event that he and I were both at, and had such a great presence on stage. And then I was fortunate enough to get to go out with my wife and his wife for an evening in Philly. And Philly's his, close to his stomping ground, so he knew all the places to get in trouble. We went to a jazz club, had a wonderful meal, went and smoked a good cigar in this little speakeasy kind of place. I mean, we got back to the hotel, and Carolyn asked what time it was, thinking it was 10, 11 o'clock. I said, it's 1:30 in the morning. So needless to say, we hit it off really well. But the reason I wanted to bring Dan on is not because he can show you how to make a ton of money, which he can and has been showing people for years. But I want him to talk about his shift in lifestyle in particular and how he's helping other people to make the same shift. So I'm not going to bother with a lot of his business accolades. He'll weave those into his story today. So let's go ahead and bring Dan in, and folks, you're in for a lot of fun. Go ahead, Emerson.
Okay. There we go. As Jim likes to say, putting a quarter in the machine.
All right,
and
Dan.
There he is.
Hey guys, how are you? Thanks so much for having me on here. I've been looking forward to this, and Mike, it's such an honor. I mean, we had a great time, and Emerson, it's awesome meeting you, and I'm just blessed to be part of this amazing movement you guys are doing.
Yeah, we're our trying to get good messages out to business people really fits with what I think it is you're trying to do. And I was selfish wanting you on here. I wanted a better explanation of it. So what better way than to get the guy to come right on and answer all your questions.
Oh,
and Dan,
great.
you're from Philly?
I'm actually
Right?
from New York. I live in Delaware now. I'm originally from New York, born and raised there.
Okay.
I spent a lot of time there, and now live in Delaware for the last 19 years. So, but as Mike probably feels the same way, I don't know where I'm from anymore because we're constantly sailing around the world, speaking at events and doing different deals. And it's that call home. I call Delaware home. Delaware Beach is home.
Yeah, I don't travel as much. I just watch your Facebook so I can see all the traveling you're doing, and I feel satisfied. Dan is going to be speaking in Nashville in a couple of days. Isn't that right? You want to mention a little bit about that event before we get into your story?
I'm one of the experts out there in the creating passive income as a nude investor and seller financing. So I am speaking. I'm one of the keynote speakers in June for Diversified Mortgage Expo out in Nashville, Tennessee. I think June 2nd and 3rd. And from there, I fly up to Dallas, Texas, and then I'll speak over there with like a family office type group. And then I head over to Abilene, Texas to meet some of our asset managers there. So, and that pretty much sums up my travel for most of the summer. I try to take my summer to live on the beach, enjoying my life, as you read in the book. Enjoying my life, living that passive to prosperous life. So I spend my time on the sand and on the boat and enjoying the beach here in Delaware for a couple months.
All right. And
where are you going to be speaking at in Nashville, out of curiosity?
The Hilton Nashville Airport.
Okay.
Something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Been there and done that. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, they're not typical part of Nashville. I usually get to Nashville and I spend all my time on Broadway downtown, but that's where this event is. So I enjoy when I speak at an event, I generally try to stay in the location because I try to make myself available to all the guests that come to the event. I always believe that's the abundant way to do it. I'm one of those speakers that unless I have another speaking event I have to get to, I generally will lock myself up for that speaking event to be present the whole time for people that, hear you speak and want to ask you questions.
Very unusual, too. So many of them just walk in the door 15 minutes before they speak and walk out when they're done. Just another way that it shows you like to give back anywhere you can.
Oh,
yeah, I'm more of that mindset as well. If you're there, that's why I'm there. I left my home, left my family. I'm here for a purpose. That's the purpose that I'm there for. And I'm not there for vacation, or for whatever else. I'm there for the people that I'm speaking to.
I can tell you this. I learned a long time ago, once you get to your point in life, and Mike understands this, he's gotten there as well. Once you get to a certain point in life, what else is there? And I always tell people, I said, I'm probably one of the unhappiest. I was one of the most depressed millionaires you meet at a certain point. Because you get to that certain point, you're like, what else is left? You can still do more deals. You can still make more money. But you want to love on people. You want to serve at the highest purpose. And that's what I always try to do. Is I was like, how do I serve at a higher purpose? How do I give back? And I value people a lot. I don't care what event it's at, whether it's a free event, a very high. I mean, I speak at some events where people invest a lot of money in it or very little money in it, but they put their time in there and they come and they take time out of away from their family, time out of their own life. and they want to, what can you do to give back to them? And they come to that event. If you just speak up on stage and talk about how great you are, that serves nobody any purpose at all. Because and Mike probably heard me say,
there's always the ones who will sell you anything and give you nothing. And then there's the ones who are giving, and the people know it and they appreciate it. And at the end of the day, people end up sharing their experience with you. And, expertise is a great thing, but people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Exactly. I couldn't agree with you anymore. So that's why I swore to myself years ago, everything I didn't like about speakers when I went to events, I said I would never be. And I can't tell you the amount of people have come up to me and thanked me for actually sticking around and answering questions. And the only time I even leave the room, and Michael probably could attest to that, is just somebody came up to me and I actually sit there and I listen to every speaker. I give every speaker their undue, deserving credit and honor them. And, I don't know everything. I get to learn things as well. But the only time I ever leave the room is when somebody comes up to me and says, hey, can I have a one-on-one with you? And I'm always going to say yes. I'll never say no to them. So that's my give back. And I enjoy it. I do it for myself because it allows me selfishly to meet my goals and my vision at living at the highest purpose that I can potentially live at, and to love on people more than I can, money doesn't change everything. It's how do you love on people? How do you serve at the highest purpose? And once you get that in life, everything changes for you.
Very true. That's one of the things that we talk about quite a bit, Mike and I, is you got to have a higher purpose than just, what is our bottom line? The bottom line will take care of itself if your higher purpose is right.
Yeah, we just launched a nonprofit. It hasn't even got its blessing from the IRS yet, called Ideas Worth Sharing, where all of those Ideas Worth Knowing books that we're creating, we wanted a vehicle where we could give them away to as many people as possible. And so we started the nonprofit that its sole purpose is to get great information as inexpensively as possible out to business people and veterans. And particularly all the books will be free on there. So you won't be retiring off those royalties, Dan. But we're also going to have a section where our speaker authors, if they've got a particular program that they think might be good for the people, and they're willing to give a slight discount on it, then there will be more than just the books on there. We'll have lots of videos. We'll have end-to-end programs. I'm trying to think what's the name of the program that you've been teaching a lot over the years, Dan? I can't find my note.
Well, I have a couple. I have how to raise $1 million or more in 90 days or less. I also
that was the one I liked.
Yeah, how to become how to live passively as the bank, and that new program is being put out as we now. We're going to create my seller financing course out there for online training. So I do a lot one-on-one coaching for people on that, but there's so much of Dan Zitofsky to go around. I can't be everywhere, right? So people bring us in for a day training with them, but now we're going to put that course online training. We also have a couple other courses we do as well, with how to build a $10,000 a month rental portfolio, the subject to course. And I love what you're doing with the books, Mike, and I love what you're doing. In fact, if you look at my book on Amazon, someone just reached out to me today and they sent me a picture, a screenshot of my book. And they said, why in the world is your book so cheap? And I said, because I was on a really big 3-month speaking tour and not that 1997 is expensive, but I actually told my marketing guys to go to Amazon and bring it down to the cheapest price you could bring it to Amazon for 3 months. Cause I want no reason why anyone can have the book, because there's so much valuable information in there. I want them to have it. And yeah, if you're in the book business to get rich, I mean, I'm not Dean Koontz. I don't write those kind of books, so I don't see myself get rich in a book business. But I want that book in everyone's hands because it literally is what changed my life. I'm giving people step by step how I changed my life, and I think that if people read that book or whatever book we put out next, Mike, if people read it, I don't put fluff in a book. It's really about what changed my life, and that you could take the actual steps in that book to create the life that I created and that I wish I would have done 32 years ago when I first started this real estate investing business, when I was very transactional.
Yeah, there's so many in the real estate industry that all they're looking at is that bottom line. And, I was guilty of it myself. 100-hour work weeks were not unusual. I mean, toward the end of my development company, I was spending more time with my pilot than I was with my wife. That's not what I started out to do. I was supposed to give me freedom to spend more time with my family. And that's why I'm so excited about what I see going on with you. I mean, folks, when he says he takes the summer off, he lives in a beach condo and takes the whole summer off, other than, as he said, an occasional appearance for a friend or a business associate, that wants him to come and speak to a big group. There's
Right.
not a lot of people in the fix and flip industry that have ever been on a 2-week vacation, let alone a 2-month vacation.
Exactly. And I tell you this, if you can't shut your laptop down and your phone off for 3 months, you don't have a business, you have a job. That's really what you have. And, when I realized, and you said it, Mike, too, it's why did we get in this business? And when people ask me why I got into the business I got into, I said, because I wanted to do what I want, when I want, with whom I want. And that means like us going out to a jazz club, having a great dinner, having a lot of laughs, going smoking a cigar at a speakeasy and going back at, having some laughs and walking through town until 1:30 in the morning. I didn't have to worry about picking up my phone and answering a contract or answering a realtor, answering an inspector. I got to do what I want when I wanted. But when you have these jobs because you're chasing money, because yes, I'm into cars. If people know me, they know I like crazy cars. They know I have a watch collection that could choke a horse, and they know I like boats. Yes, I get that. But that's what I was chasing years ago because I thought that was success. But that success, I always say it's fun until the giggle wears off. And that giggle wears off pretty quick. But getting to enjoy my summer on the beach doing what I want, no, I don't. If people ask me to book appointments, my answer is, and Mike's price, my answer is generally call me that day, shoot me a text message, and depending on how the weather is whether I'll get on a call with you or not. That's generally how my summer goes. And I've been offered deals like, Dan, fly out here. Let's look at this project together. And I'm just not going to do it. I don't care how much money I can make on it because I don't chase money anymore. Now, I say that very respectfully, saying, because people say, well, Dan, you're in a position where you don't have to anymore. And I get that. And I understand that. But I would have done the same thing 30 years ago because it would have really affected my why. And my why is to do what I want, when I want, with whom I want. And I love it. I get to do it, and I love it. I got to spend time with Mike and his wife, and we had a great time, and we connected really well. And I did that, without any kind of roadblocks in the way because I didn't have to worry about my phones going off. Right. And Mike said, hey, do you want to go to dinner tomorrow night? We saw the first night he went to dinner. We want to go to dinner tomorrow night. I said, sure. I didn't have to run and go take off because I had to go work on a project. And that's what I love to do. That's my why. So when I always talk about figure out what your why is and figure out what your vision is. And the problem is we all have this vision, we all have a why, and then our actions do one of these, right? And I always say, make believe you're a chiropractor. You got to bring yourself back in alignment like this. And our alignment, our actions, and most people, I'm going to say more than 90% of the people out there, business owners, they'll tell you they're in business for one reason, and their actions are completely different than what their vision is, right? They don't align. So if you're not aligning, you need to, and that's why I say coaching and mentorship and having a support group and an accountability group and being around people like yourself and Mike would really help out a lot because, hey, you might be able to call me out and say, hey, Dan, you're saying you want to do this, but your actions are out here. You need to bring yourself back in alignment. And, Mike's done a really good job at that. And that's what I'm constantly working on. And I do with my health as well now. It's the same exact thing. When I coach people in health, it's the same thing. You tell me your why is you want to get healthy because you want to be there to walk your baby girl down the aisle, or you want to come off your medicines, or you want to, date your wife again. You want her to look at you like you're sexy, but you're out there and you're eating a cheesesteak in Philadelphia and drinking beer. Well, your actions don't align with your vision and your why. And that's just life as a whole for people.
Okay. I have to say, when I interview high-level executives like yourself for the books that we create, most of my time is spent dragging them back into alignment with what they said the book was going to be about, because they're so creative that you'll be in the middle of talking about something and this great idea comes into your mind. Well, most of the execs I know, off they go, and I got to pull them back. Say, we'll do that one in a different chapter, guys. But yeah, it's embarrassing how badly we lie to ourselves. I mean, no one else really cares what we're doing. So when we're not doing what we think we should be doing, we're only hurting ourselves and our family. And it's great to have somebody point it out that's as big as you are. So I can't even think about whooping you for being mean to me.
Well, I'm going to call it the entrepreneur. I'm not going to say we lie to ourselves. I'm going to call it, we all have, Mike, we have that entrepreneur's curse.
Yeah, okay. I'll buy that.
It's the entrepreneur's curse. We can't, Dawn used to tell me, my wife Dawn, she used to take me on vacations. They used to trick me. They'd take me on vacations where I couldn't get Wi-Fi. I couldn't get Wi-Fi. Couldn't get cell phone service because I had that entrepreneur's curse. Now, most entrepreneurs, just like your books, right? We have all these ideas coming in because we're always thinking, right? We're always thinking what's next. And a lot of times she would take me on vacation and she's like, you just need to relax. Well, that's not good for me. I don't need to relax. Like, I do better when I'm going like this, right? Everything's kind of going like this. So sometimes that relaxation is we're not in tune with ourselves. But you're right. And I always talk about it's the entrepreneur's curse, right? So writing a book, I mean, I've gone through it. I had to write this book, and my last book took me a long time to write because I was back in the day, I was literally like writing the book. And I wanted to be my own words, and I had to stay focused. And I'm like, this book is on this. It's not on all the other things. So I'm sure that's what you're dealing with when you're helping authors like ourselves write books. It's like, we need you, Mike. We need you to bring us back in, like pull us back in. And okay, this is what we're writing on this time.
Yeah, the biggest thing I found is successful executives tend to want to teach and share. They know what works, and they want to, but the issue I come into is most of the guys that I write books with are up here, and they're people they're writing them for are down here. So I have to drag them back down. It's like when we write books, we try to write them at an 8th grade reading level. Unfortunately, folks, that's the reading level for the average American. And particularly people that love their jobs, gosh, it's hard to rein them in. And right. I mean, most folks don't realize that between the three of us, we're probably looking at $2,500 an hour of consulting fees that we're giving up just because we want to share something with the people. So
100%. And I tell you what, when I wrote the last book, it's great that you said that, man. That's what I love about you. And I'm looking forward to doing future books with you because I did this book. And when I did it, one thing I said is I'm not going to put a lot of fluff in it. And I want to make it an easy to understand read because some of what I do is very high level. And I have to bring it down where people could say, okay, I know I can do this. I understand the concept of what you do. And I'm going to start putting it to work. But if nothing else, they'll get the theory of, okay, what I'm doing is probably not right. And I need to switch and do something else. And this is how I could do it. And they can put it into, I don't care if you don't have to be a real estate investor. You don't have to be a hedge fund. You don't have to raise capital like I do from investors. You could be a plumber. You could be a dentist. I work with a lot of dentists and I consult them. You can, if you're not living your best life, if you're actually doing the work, if you created a job for yourself in any field you're at, and you learn that, hey, this is not why I got into business, then I've just changed your life and I've helped you. And that's really where I wanted that book. That's what I wanted the book to do, is I wanted to kind of to get rid of 30 years of potential aggravation that you might go through because you read the book and you saw items that you could put into your life that could actually help you. You'd say, whoa, wait a minute. I'm a dentist and I'm working 15 hours a day. I'm the only person treating everybody in my practice. And I'm doing all the building, all the billing, all the scheduling, all the work,
marketing, everything.
I'm doing everything, and that's really what it's for. And I wanted to make it that easy. So I appreciate that you said we bring it down to an 8th grade level, not because we think people are ignorant, but we want to make it easy for anyone to take that book and to actually, because what's a book? I mean, a book is, to me, or a book or a coach or a training program is kind of like your navigation system to where you want to get to, right? And we didn't have this stuff years ago. I mean, when I started 32 years ago, we didn't have video like this. We didn't have speaking events. I mean, geez, there was like 3 speakers out there, and they sold some videotapes back then. People remember what a videotape was back then. Some books. That's about the most you got. Now there's a plethora of information out there, and experts like you and Emerson putting, topics out there that could truly help anybody depending on what they need. There's all this media out there that you really, if you want, and there's coaches and there's masterminds, there's events you can go to. You can get anything you need, and you can find the experts, and you can go to the VIP lane and really, take that VIP access to where you want to get to, where I didn't have that growing up.
Yeah, you did a great job in your book of talking about team building and that sort of thing. And I think that's something to stress to new people, especially if you're, a professional and you want to diversify into alternative investments like Dan works with. It's you don't have to know it all. You just have to know who does know it all and hire them to work for you. I mean, there's great syndication attorneys out there. And there's some bad ones out there. So you want somebody that's done some deals to recommend the syndication attorney to you, not open the Yellow Pages. And for you kids that don't know, the Yellow Pages was this giant book that had every phone number in the world in it.
Yeah, Dan, you made a good comment. There's a plethora of information out there. One of the things that'd be interesting, and one of the reasons why Mike and I have been working on the Ideas Worth Knowing concept, is because a lot of the information isn't good information, or it's outdated information, or it's from people who really don't have the experience. They're just repeating something that they've heard from somebody else. I'd love to hear your advice for people who are looking and sensing maybe a bit of overwhelm at all of the information that's out there, and having no idea how to separate the wheat from the chaff, how to pick the ones that really do know what they're talking about, and the ones who will really be there for them when they're trying to acquire the skills and learn along the way. I'd love to get your advice to the people who are watching, because I know a lot of people who have come up to me over the years, and that's exactly what they're dealing with.
Emerson, that is such a great question. In fact, I just had this call this morning with one of my coaching students that I helped. And it was in the investing world, and he had invested some money with somebody that basically took his money. And I went through with him, and I did the basic search, the basic background on judgments, and looking this person up and seeing their judgments. It was a basic Google search. They would have found out a ton of information. Obviously, you go to events, and the trust factor, right? Go to people you trust that have done business. Yes. Ask them to proof up. There's nothing wrong with asking somebody who's going to mentor you to proof up if you don't know them, or go to somebody like yourself and Mike, and where, like, Mike was in an event I was at of Ken, who I really trust, and Ken would never brought Mike to this event as a publisher of books. Somebody can help me put out books if he didn't trust them himself. And then Mike had done books with some couple people that I value a lot in the business and I'm friends with. So it's very easy. But let's say Mike just started his business. What value does he bring, right? And he could come out there and he could bring a ton of value when he starts his business. But you do your due diligence, right? The basic due diligence is what you do. And you want to work with somebody who really is doing exactly what you want to do, all right? You want to kind of get the shiny object syndrome, put your blinders onto the shiny object, because everybody has a shiny object syndrome. And what I love is a relationship. I love honesty. I love integrity. There's things I look for, just like in my company, core values. If I was out with Mike and he didn't have certain core values, I wouldn't want to work with that person. So his core values and what he's done, that's what you look for. But I would tell you this, depending on what you're looking to do, is go to somebody, don't just listen to that person. Go to somebody else that you trust and ask that person. Just like Mike said, there's syndication attorneys that are good. There are syndication attorneys that aren't so good, right? Ask Mike, I'm looking to do exactly what you've done in this business. Who do you recommend? And he's going to give you somebody who he's used. And that's what I want. Somebody that I trust is used. because that's going to lead me in the wrong path. If I don't have anyone like that, you could do some base nowadays. I mean, there's some really good due diligence. You could check judgments. You could check. I mean, in the investing world, listen, I actually like working with people who have gotten knocked down and built themselves back up. But I want honesty. So if somebody is dishonest with me, I could very easily check, bankruptcies. I could check those searches. If they tell me, hey, I went bankrupt, this is why, and this is how I came back. I actually value that more than somebody who hasn't. I have it, and I'm not going to say I'm lucky. I'm just a very conservative investor, so I might not have taken those crazy chances. But when somebody gets knocked down and they get back up, that's a lot more impressive than somebody like me who hasn't been knocked down on that side. So I'm honest with people about that. I tell them up front, I says, you know what? There's people that I want to know how they act when things don't go well, right? And I ask those tough questions. So don't be scared to ask those tough questions. In fact, I'm now doing business in Roatan, right? We're working with a builder. We're building houses in Roatan for people that want short-term rentals, and to really, the market there on the water is really locked up. So if you want to make some serious money, Roatan is a great spot for it. So we bought 5 lots. We had partners that came in with us, and there was something there that was just bothering me, right? And I asked those tough questions, and those tough questions didn't pan out. And I carved out, I said, listen, you guys take your business and we're going to take our business. We're going to run here. You could take 1 of the lots. We'll take 4 of the lots. Do whatever you want. We'll do what we want. And so maybe I make less money, but you know what? I always say the best deal is the ones you don't do. So if you have a gut feeling, go with that gut feeling. Don't have a FOMO. Don't worry about missing out on $1 because it's always going to come back to burn you later on if you have that gut feeling. Right. So those are the kind of things I really recommend. And nowadays, there's so many people in this industry, for whatever industry you're in, right? Book writing, marketing, real estate investing. It's so many people, but it's such a small world. If you do something wrong, everybody's going to know about it. And you're not going to be invited to speak. Now, I'm not going to say everybody, but somebody you trust. Like we were at the event in Philadelphia, and that was one of 3 events I could have spoke at that weekend. All right. And I chose that event because I have a relationship with Ken, and I promised him I'd be at that event. And because of the event in Orlando was blown out because of the storm that came through, I said, I'll be at your next event in Philly. And I told the other event, I couldn't do it. And I know that everyone at an event, Ken would never bring somebody to that event that he didn't value, because he holds everyone into a high level, a very high level. He's not going to put one person on stage that he doesn't value. He's not going to bring one person at an event he doesn't trust. So I know that being at that one event, I literally can trust any speaker there or anyone that helped Ken out. Now, anyone that attends is totally different, right? But if Ken brought Mike in and said Mike is the one who publishes books for authors, and then I got to speak to Mike, and I got along great with him. We hit it off. I just felt like we aligned. My wife was a great judge of character. My wife aligned. But then he actually worked with 2 people that I know in the industry, and they aligned. So it's like everything aligns. I'm good now, right? I'm good. So that's kind of how I do it. But a lot of people don't. They just go in because listen, Emerson, if I get up on stage, I'm not going to talk about how horrible I am. I'm going to talk about how great I am, how my best deals go, right? That's what everyone does. They talk about their best deals. I'm actually a little different. I tell people how I screwed up, right?
Yes.
How I screwed up and how I learned from it. Because nobody cares. When you start getting vulnerable people, they'll listen to you. Nobody wants to, and I say this on stage, nobody cares how great I am. Doesn't matter to them. They don't care about what I've done. They don't care about what I've accomplished. What they care about is what I could do for them, how I can help them with their life, how they can relate to me. That's what people care about. So you got to be careful when you're on stage. Nobody's going to talk about like Dan Zitofsky talks. I'm a little bit different, and maybe that's why my speaking career has gone through the roof, and I get paid to speak at some events now, and I get brought in and I get asked to speak at all events. Maybe that's why. It's because I'm very humorous. I should say hubris. Is that the word I'm looking for? Hubris out there. Yes. And I don't get out there to impress anybody. It's to I always get out there, and I say it all the time. I said, I'm here to impress upon you what you can do for yourself, because nobody cares about what I've done. That my accomplishments mean absolutely nothing to anybody. It's how can they see what I've done in them? And that's when you become an abundant person, an abundant speaker. And that's when your speaking career goes through the roof. Most people don't get this because they get up there and talk about how great they are. So and I just tell you that to be very careful. That was a great question, Emerson, on how do you trust the right person? How do you know who to listen to? How do you know who to follow? But this day and age, it's actually very easy to know. All right, there's a lot of people out there that you can align with, that you could follow.
Yeah, we had
you can't
another
just trust the
speaker.
information.
Emerson, we had another speaker at the event that was a perfect example of integrity. He had made a commitment a year before that he would speak at Ken's event. Well, during that year, he had an opportunity come to go out to Las Vegas, and he's a wrestler, and so is Russell Brunson, and he was going to get to go to a tournament and wrestle against Russell. That's hard to say real fast. But he had made a commitment to Ken. And so he had to let that, I mean, we're talking a great opportunity in his mind to twist Russell up, because the two of them wrestle every time they get together. But every speaker in the room was that way. He brought in a half a dozen people as a surprise, came in from all over the world that have known him for 20 years. So I agree. You get indications by people like him introducing you and that sort of thing. And at that time, like Dan, I give people the benefit of the doubt. So we have a relationship because somebody spoke up for you, and to lose that relationship is up to you, or to make it more solid, it's up to you, your choice. But I'm going to at least listen to you and give you the benefit of the doubt, which is why I started doing books, by the way, Dan. I'll tell you that story the next time we're smoking a cigar.
Awesome.
But, each one of us have mentioned his name, so I'm just going to say Ken MacArthur is who we're talking about. And each one of us have the same impression after, goodness, for me, at least 26, 27 years or more. Of seeing him in action, and he is one of the, as I refer to, he's one of the straight arrows. He's one of the straight arrows. He says what he means, and he means what he says, and there's not a lot of high pressure stuff that goes on there. You used a term that a lot of our audience probably does know, some may not. FOMO, fear of missing out, and one of the things that FOMO fights in us is our own intuition. And doing due diligence can satisfy our intuition that we're right. And there is no FOMO. There is no fear of missing out that's driving our decision, because FOMO is one of those things. It's fear. And it's something that is getting us to make it so that we don't miss out on the opportunity, instead of running with our intuition and trusting that in making our decision. And due diligence, actually taking the time to do some research and find out the answers that you're looking for, satisfactory to what you're looking at making the decision. That all but eliminates being driven by the fear or the buyer's remorse, the beating ourselves over the head, that we made the bad decision, or we actually did make a bad decision, get caught up in not having phone calls that are answered, not having follow-ups that are done, having something that looked good on paper, but you got to spend X number of dollars to have this part that they didn't bother to tell you in the beginning. Those types of things we've all seen.
Right.
Trusting your intuition, and if your intuition is giving you some signals, go with it. Do your due diligence, back it up. But don't just be making decisions based on the excitement of the moment, the emotional intensity of it, or how much you want to, or in real estate, what's the old thing? Don't ever buy a house you're in love with, right?
Exactly. But I will say,
oh my God, and everything goes out the window.
And you have the other side of this, right? So I was speaking with somebody we bought 4 lots in Roatan, and I'm building a house there as well on the water. And a friend of mine, he jumped in, he bought a house there, and he says, I'm so nervous. I said, you should be. I said, every deal I do, and Mike probably agrees to this because he developed tremendous amount of real estate. I said, every big deal I do, my stomach gets a little knot in it. And I said, that's a good thing, because that kind of like sets us up that we're not cavalier. If you're not, and you're just willy-nilly doing things, you're very cavalier, and that's how you can get hurt. So we can go the other way, right? So we have the due diligence, but there's some people that just, all they do is get ready to get ready. They never take any action. So that could be the opposite.
Convinced to begin to get ready to start.
Yes. So there's two sides, right? But I do tell people, yes, you have to do all your due diligence. I'm not a FOMO guy, right? I'm always the second. I always have missed out on I'm always that guy that says, oh, if I could have got in back then. But now I'm always the second, right? So I'll watch when something new starts. I'll always watch. Okay, show me how it works after 6 months or a year. Let's see how it performs. And before I bring a deal to anybody, I generally put my money in. So the second stage is me. Then by the third stage, I'm like, all right, you could have got in earlier, but I wanted to put my money first. Yeah. And I wanted to make sure that I didn't lose my money before I brought it to you. And now I'm bringing it to you because to me, it's an abundance thing. It has to work. Even the same thing with the weight loss, Mike, right? Before I started helping people with weight loss, I said, I have to do it for myself. Once I did it for myself and I said, wow, this is amazing, I had to share it with other people, because by sharing with other people, that's living in abundance. And to me, the definition of abundance is that if you know something so great and you don't share it with somebody else, you're being selfish. So that's why I love to share. One of my genius zones is putting great people or great programs or great packages together for others. Like whether I make money in it or not, that's not what it's about, because I don't chase money. Because I can make money in my real estate deals. But people that know me, they're very quick to react, because they always say, if you tell me to do it, I know you did your due diligence, and I'll never put something out or refer somebody that I wouldn't use myself or haven't used myself.
Yeah, I think people don't realize that as the general partner, even though we're investing other people's money, we've already put a tremendous amount of money and due diligence in before the first investor ever sees it. It's just the nature of the syndicators. They not only want to do a great deal, but they want to do a great deal for their investors and have come back time and time again. And the adage I thought of when you were talking about not being the first one was the early bird gets the worm, but the second rat gets the cheese.
I like that.
Feel free to use it. And I also, the only thing that ever overrides my intuition is my wife's intuition. It is so much better than mine. If she says, I don't like that guy, I run. You know
what? And we hate to admit it. I just had a call this morning with that whole partnership thing. And Dawn was sitting there and she's doing one of these. And I said, I was talking with my partner, his wife, and I said, you guys have this intuition. Women have this intuition. And I refuse to admit to it. I'm not like this might be the first time she heard me say I admit it, that you have a better intuition than I. But you know what? That's a great chat. That's a great book title, Mike. The rat gets the cheese. Write it down, and we might have to do that, bro. Now, all these different thoughts coming in. The rat gets the cheese. That would be a great book title.
Look on Amazon. I have one that says, "Don't put frosting on a turd."
You know, it's interesting. The whole thing, working, and there are three of us guys here, okay? And you said something that, it's generally accepted that, that women are more in tune with that intuitive part of their brain. And some might disagree with that. That's been my experience in seeing it as well. But I've been surrounded by powerful women my whole life, and I tend to trust that intuitive part of it more than most guys do. And the people who've watched us over the last several years have heard this story, but I actually asked my wife to marry me, Dan, before we ever had a date. We'd been around each other. We talked a lot on the phone. We'd been with groups of people, but one morning I woke up and I said, there are a lot of wonderful people in the world, but there's only one Annie, and she's the one I want. Now, that's my intuition. Then I got in my car, drove to her studio, asked her to sit down. I'm going to come back around to that drive, okay? And I said, Annie, you don't need me, and I don't need you. And when I say that in front of a room, eyes are going, huh? I never heard that. And women are going, uh-huh. Yeah, that's right. I said, but I feel like together we enhance each other. Will you marry me? And she looked at me and went, yes. Never had a discussion about it before that moment. Now, let's go back to that drive. I had a battle going on in my head. those voices were screaming at me and telling me why every reason under the sunlight was stupid. And that's what we have. Just because we go with that intuition doesn't mean that everything just clears out. And that's where the due diligence really comes in, because the due diligence reassures that's we're on the right track there. And 9 times out of 10, what you felt the first time, that intuition, if you're not letting that fear of missing out and other fears kick into it, 9 times out of 10, tell me if you've experienced this, 9 times out of 10, that's the one to go with. I'm not being sold.
My wife's not listening, so I could admit to it. It's Emerson, it's every time. I mean, and
yeah.
Again, I hate to admit it, but it's every time. So this time, that's an amazing story. Forget about me. That is just an amazing story. I love hearing stories like that, because it's nice to hear that. It really is nice to hear that you had that and you had that happy marriage. How long are you married for now?
This August will be 25 years.
Wow. Say that. Good deal. Good deal. So we all have good women behind us. I say every great guy, you have to have a good woman behind you. And we do. We need to have great women behind us, because you can't do this alone. Definitely not. Life is tough without a good woman grounding. Like, I would never be grounded if it wasn't for Dawn. So.
Well, and you need to be supported. And there's nothing worse in the world than, folks, if you're in a relationship where you can't support them or they can't support you, get out. There's a better relationship out there for you. Just get the heck out of that one. Life's too short. Drink cheap wine or date ugly. No, wait, that was a different story.
That's another book. That's a chapter.
Yeah, Carolyn's not watching either. So,
and folks, I'll tell you this too, because we all have those times where we're button heads, and just something I learned many years ago, and I can't even tell you all the different things that fed into it. But I say, I've got to go outside, and I go outside. I've done a fair amount of work in brain in brain science, and it's not how your brain is. The right side of the brain is the creative side, and the left side is that analytical side. Here's what we have to do. One side can't hold that energy. And when you're really emotional and everything is firing off, if you go outside and do something extremely analytical, here's what I do. It's 4,573,000.726 times 15. And I start trying to do something that is impossible to ever figure out in my head. What happens is you drain that energy from that other side of the brain, and you get out of that place where your energy is all in that emotional and you're in being right and everything, all that other stuff. And then you can just say, the most important person in the world to me is in that other room, and I won't even remember what this is about a week from now.
Wow, that's phenomenal.
And you go in that other room and you say, I apologize for the way I was reacting. You don't have to go in there, admit that you're wrong, it's like the way we act and react to each other, we take responsibility for. And there's power in that, folks. There is power in that.
That's excellent. That really is. I love it.
Dan, why don't you tell us about, I know you've got several different types of people. You've got the health ones that you're working on. You've got the new investors you're working with. You've got the accredited investors that you're doing venture funds with. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about what people should reach out to you? Who could Dan help the most?
Well, on the health side, it's anybody that wants to truly get healthy, get their optimal health. I'll help them with their nutrition, really work on the nutrition, support, community, And it's not just getting them some food. We'll really work with them and coach them on the nutrition. That's really important, because first things first, if you're not healthy, nothing else matters in life. I can't do anything else for you. The people on the wealth side, we like to work with people that want to create that passive income for themselves. They don't want to be transactional investors. They don't want to make that quick flip, the quick wholesale deal, the quick multifamily. They want to truly build a passive income. They want to learn to become the life that they talk about living, like living their why, right? Doing what they want, when they want, with who they want. So we work with them there. The other people we work with is really people who have funds or don't know about the funds they have and want to put their funds to work passively. So we help them become the bank. So things like IRAs, 401ks, Coverdell's, health savings accounts, life insurance policies. How do they become the bank and earn that mailbox money? So we talk to them about the deals we're doing, and potentially they may or may not be a fit for our deals. We don't take everybody. Just like we're not a fit for them, they might not be a fit for us. My thing is I really consider the people I partner in deals with like family to me, right? So if I don't want to go out and have a cigar with you or a beer with you, I probably don't want to do too much business with you. And I look at people and I ask them straight up, what happens if you lose money on a deal? Like, where's your head? Now, have we lost money ever for an investor? No. Have we lost our own money? More than I care to share. But you want to make sure that you take care of your investor and they're comfortable, right? That's the most important thing. I will always make my money. I'm okay. But to me, my biggest concern is always taking care of my investor, looking out for them first. As you heard, when I taught how to raise private money, that's what it's about for me. Always taking care of the investor. So that's really what I look for, is look for people. And in businesses, I like work with business owners that want people to come in and consult with them, how to build systems, so people, process, systems, and culture, how to build a culture in their organization. Because a lot of people are great at what they do, their craft. And I talk about dentists again, they're phenomenal dentists. But I happen to consult with some dentists, and unfortunately, they're terrible CEOs of their company, right? They don't know how to run a company. They don't know how to grow a company. They're muling people. I call muling people out in their business. They're overworking them. They're not using people in their genius zones. So I like to work and consult with people in their business and help them grow their business or get the cogs out of the wheel in their business. So those are really the different things I do in my business. And sales organizations that want us to come in and speak for their organization, we come in and do talks for their organization. And generally, we're really good at that. We're really good at, piercing that salesperson, getting to their core and really enlightening them on what's possible.
Okay, we've got about 5 minutes left.
Actually, about 4.
We've been all over the board with this, but I knew that would happen. Dan has just had such a colorful career and such a like-minded spirit to Emerson and I that I guess the first thing, Dan, is what's the best way for people that meet those criteria you just said to reach out to you?
They could shoot me an email. You can put my email in you can give it out to them in the chat. It's dan@Zitofsky.capitalmanagement.com. I'll put it in here. And that's probably the best way right now to reach out to me. And I'll just let me know what you're doing, what you're looking to do, and I'll see how I can help you.
All right. I think, folks, that that could be a life-changing call, but only if you take advice well. It's all of us work with a lot of people that we lovingly call assholes, where you'll take time out of your busy day and to really try and help them, spend a half hour telling them exactly what to do, and then they ignore you and never do it or go somewhere and do something else. And 6 months later, they're back crying to you again.
Exactly.
We don't like those kind of folks, but we do like folks that do due diligence. My life philosophy is trust but verify.
Exactly.
So if you tell me something, I'm going to trust you, but I'm also going to verify it. And any smart businessman will do that. Anything else you want to ask, Emerson? Well, we still got 2 minutes on the ticker. That's a problem with big organizations, is they really hold our feet to the fire on time.
There we go. We got his name up there. That's what I was hoping.
All right. Yeah, that looks pretty.
Yay.
Yeah.
We had an angel
yeah,
behind the scenes working on that one.
yeah.
His
Yes.
initials are JG.
Well, like I said, thank you both, Emerson and Mike. I definitely, it's an honor to be on here. I definitely value you both a lot. Believe me, I value you two a lot. And it's to even be on this show is means a lot. So I know you have a pretty good audience and people trust you a lot. And if I could change somebody's life in some way, whatever it might be, it's just that's truly my abundance and that's my purpose in life. So I appreciate you for getting the word out there.
You know, Dan, the one criteria that we never break on this show is we only invite people in that we know, like, and trust. Because our audience is depending on us to sort through all the piles of content that are piling up out there and get them honest, correct content that's working right now today. I mean, Dan's not going to talk to you about flipping houses because he was doing that several years ago. He's going to talk to you about what's working today and why it's working. You know, exactly. And that's the kind of people you want to take advice from, folks. We call it, and you probably saw it as the subtitle of one of our friends' book. It's called Building on the Shoulders of Giants. And
exactly.
There's people that have went before you that have done it successfully and done it not so successfully. You can learn from those people. Success always leaves clues. So, folks, don't hire any 20-year-old life coaches. Don't ever hire somebody that's going to teach you how to get wealthy that's broke. I think if you stick to those two, you'll probably be okay. And Dan, we're so happy you came on the show. You've got 48 seconds. Do with it what you will. Well,
once again, guys, Mike and Emerson, you both said it. So if you're listening to this show, once again, really take this time and whatever it might be, think about your why. What do you want your life to be like? What would happen if you were in your deathbed? What would you say to yourself? Do you believe you gave 150%? Did you leave anything on the table? Think about your eulogy. What would people say about you? And I'm going to leave it like that and start taking action, guys. You got great resources here. You got great people here. You have a ton of information. And you want to just live your best life. Lifestyle by design is what I talk about. So thanks for having me on. I appreciate you guys, and I love you. And I'm looking forward to just changing lives one at a time.
See you all next show.
Take care, guys. Thank you so much.